Hey everyone, 9.18 is about a week away, so we're going to go over the changes and what they could actually mean for the game. As always, we're starting off with our nerfs because they tend to be a little bit more juicy. And to AKALI, her first part of the ultimate doesn't stun now. The second part of the ultimate, the maximum damage is going to be down. It's going to be down 60 to start with, and it equals out eventually rank 3. The other thing is that your cooldown is now going to be 160 seconds to start with instead of 120, going down to 100 eventually at rank 3. The first thing they've done is taken away a big way to make a play and to give her some room to actually start a fight with that stun. Like, it was half a second, so it wasn't nothing, and it was a really good way to jump in and not get insta burst. Now it's literally dashing into an enemy team. There is no crowd control attached to it at all. And then the second part is the damage is 60 off rank 1, which is also pretty big. It's 30 off rank 2 as well, but just to remember, this is the maximum, so it's based on the missing health. It's just not as good as an execute, but like at full health it's practically the same. All of this stuff is really hitting the lane phase, especially when it's a 40-second high cooldown. It's pretty close to 3 minutes. You can use your ultimate once every 3 minutes. Don't get me wrong, I'm an AD carry main, so it's pretty good for me, but she won't be anywhere near as safe. You won't get as many kills at all either. It's actually really brutal. People use it for mobility, they use it for their way into a fight, right? You can't really do much without your ult, and when it's up, it's actually going to be worse as well. So I can't see her being amazing after these changes. Another one they've got for a very popular champion is Aatrox. So his passive heals for 25% now against minions, which is a pretty hefty nerf, and your ultimate move speed halved to 30 to 50%. The first part of this is that it's forcing you to trade and fight if you want to actually heal, which is kind of like a bit counterproductive, I guess. And this is the auto attack, by the way, that you get once in a while with the extra range. It isn't going to make any difference if you actually fight somebody during a fight or anything like that, but it won't make you as safe or able to heal back up after trade. The ultimate move speed is also pretty nuts, to be fair. That's now half as good as it is at the moment, and this is going after how good he is at chasing people down. First off, like kiting as well, but also how safe he is and how easy it is to escape ganks. When he's actually fighting somebody, he's practically the same except the move speed, so like that is going to be fine. He'll just be a little bit worse and less safe. Moving on to a couple of AD carry nerfs. Ziya, her armor is going to go down 3 to 25, but the ultimate cooldown increased to 160 to 130, so it's up 20 seconds at every rank. The armor is pretty simple, right? You just allow her to get bullied in the lane phase a little bit more and to shut her down before she gets all of her items. The ultimate cooldown is every rank, so it's going to affect her early game all the way through to late game, but the one thing with Ziya is that she's very hard to shut down if she gets a lead because she's just so ultra safe, right? If you dive on her, she can ult away. Not having that as often, especially early game, is going to make it much easier to fight her and to punish her. Just as an example, like I play loads of Lucian right now, and Lucian's ultimate is 110 seconds rank 1. So if you both fight and you both use it at the same time, originally you're going to have 50 seconds where yours is up first and Ziya is still waiting. The thing about it, that is pretty insane. That's a really big window where Lucian can fight with like pretty much all of his abilities and everything, and Ziya can't, and so it should lead to way more kills against her. The other one is Kai'Sa, so her E attack speed is 40 to 60% now from 40 to 80%. She is the most popular AD at the moment, but I'm not sure if she really needed a nerf or if this is kind of like going to make much difference anyway. You put 0 points into this until very late game, so this is like 4+ items before the nerf even really kicks in and you're ever going to feel it. I guess it's trying to make her late game weaker, so she's easier to beat at that point. The attack speed is nice, like don't get me wrong, it's pretty good to have. It shouldn't really be the difference maker that late into the game though, at least in my opinion, but it will at least bring her down a little bit at full build and make her weaker at that point. Our last nerf is to Nunu. So health per level is down, armor per level is down, mana and mana regen have been slightly lowered, and your E slow has been changed to scale with ranks now. I kind of touched on this in my best champions for solo queue video because nobody really knew what happened with Nunu in this patch. He suddenly shot up, and Riot actually thought maybe it was a bug, but I guess it wasn't. A lot of it is that he's just way too tanky and nobody can kill him, especially like 1 to 2 items. So hitting base stats is a pretty smart way to naturally make that mid game weaker. Less health, less armor, and remember as well that health would be increased by Cinderhulk, so it is a little bit more than it looks like. Apart from that, the E is going to mean that he's less annoying in team fights until you've maxed it out, which most people do second, and it's actually harder for him to land that stun now because the slow is going to be weaker. Now we're going to go into our buffs. Some of these are going to be bigger than others. We're going to start with a relatively big one, which is to Annie. So her E is now going to grant 25% plus 1.5% per level move speed over 1.5 seconds. The damage reduction has been halved though to kind of counter that, and also the cooldown increased to 15 seconds from 10. It is kind of a mini update to how her E works, but not the full mini rework that we were kind of looking at before on the PvE that they've now taken off. You can't use it as often. It blocks half the damage, but it does speed you towards your target or away, I guess, if you want to run away or roam or whatever you want to do instead. They're trying to make it so that you just don't have to flash engage all of the time or to get close enough to ult somebody and to stun them and actually start a fight. It's a pretty big change, I think, and it should make it way more viable in general. So we might see a little bit, but at least at lower ranks, LS should be really happy. Moving into Evelyn now, her ultimate damage multiplier versus low health targets increased to 140% from 100%. This should be a really good change, I think. I hate Evelyn so much with a passion, but you've only got to get them to 30% health now for the extra damage. The cool thing with this though, with this buff, it basically means if you do that, if you get them to 30%, they're going to die just from the ultimate. It's going to be about 300 damage rank 1 with no AP ratio factored in or anything, and an AD or a mid laner just doesn't have much more than 900 health at that point into the game, so they're definitely going to be dead. Rank 2 is like 650 damage with no AP ratio, and again, they won't have close to 2000 health, so that is why I think it should help us so much. Like, you only have to deal 70% of somebody's health bar and press R. Even against bruisers, it should be pretty good, to be fair. Her damage is already pretty insane in general, even without an ultimate, so if you can get them to that point, if you get them low, it's definitely way better as an execute. This buff might be the biggest one we actually have. It's pretty nuts in my opinion. So Echo's W mana cost lowered to 30 to 50 from 50 to 70. The bigger part is that the stun duration is now 2.25 seconds instead of 1.75. So a 2.25 second AoE stun is such a long time if you're going to hit more than one person. With the mana cost going down as well, it's basically saying throw this out, look for plays, look for a stun, and if it lands, that's great, and if not, then you've only lost a little bit of mana. 30 mana really isn't that much to trade for a chance to kill somebody, because if it does hit, you should definitely be able to burst someone down in that stun duration. Now it's longer. The first thing you're going to think of is like mid lane Echo is getting better, but jungle Echo is actually pretty good at the moment, and this would help him even more as well. It takes less damage from the jungle from longer stuns and has less mana issues. I'm just going to throw out a wild guess here and say that I expect we're going to see a lot more of him next patch in 9.18, and he should be pretty good. Next up, we have a couple of similar ones. So Kalin and Jin, their base AD are both going up by 2. It doesn't seem like a lot, but both champions I think are relatively strong at the moment, so this is gonna like nudge them into top tier for solo queue at least. I'm pretty sure. Even though it looks really troll, base AD for an ADC actually helps a little bit more because we use it to farm. We trade with auto attacks all the time, especially early, and it also feeds into our abilities. I guess as well, Jin kind of uses it a bit more with his passive, but it's gonna be pretty minor. Honestly, both I think will be played more now, especially with Ziya and Kai'Sa getting nerfed. There is another AD carry buff, Artemis Fortuna, so E slow increased to 40 to 60% from 28 to 60%. Miss Fortune is still like relatively good as well, but she's not played as much and definitely suffering from having no mobility when pretty much everything else does. She's still really good in lower elo though, and there are quite a few builds you can run, but it's kind of weird that they're not going for any damage increase, but kind of utility. So this would help your support follow up when hit some crowd control maybe or something like that, plus maybe make it easier for you to E and chase somebody or get that love tap auto trade off in lane if that's slowed a bit more. It is 12% up, which isn't too bad, and actually it makes Arcane Comet Keystone a bit more viable because it's more likely to hit with the added slow, and Emax might be actually better as well. Couple of mid lane changes that we have as well as the Annie one. First is to Aurelion Soul, so his base health is going to be up 65 to 575. It's pretty straightforward. It's a straight up buff to his early game, and I've seen a few of these lately actually after the update, and they roam so hard, they get so tanky, and they're really annoying. Rod of Ages and Rylai's is the most disgusting 2-item combination on him, but I think this should really help. If he has a stronger lane phase, he can fight a bit more, and then he can snowball more often, he can roam better as well, and this update I think is actually really good, at least the idea behind it. I always get really afraid when Zoe gets buffed, and she is unfortunately getting one this time, but it's her passive damage. They've increased it just a little bit by 6 actually, and it scales with your level. If you aren't sure what part of her damage is her passive, it's the next basic attack after using a spell that deals extra damage on top. It isn't huge, it is 6 damage, but it will add up in a full combo if you weave them properly, because it isn't just at 6, it's like 6 after every individual spell. Also, pretty sure this triggers after using fake summoners, right? So in theory, you get more use out of it, especially during a team fight, but it's not game breaking, and thankfully, it doesn't add to a one-shot combo that much. Moving out the mid lane, Teemo shrooms are getting a buff this patch, so they no longer trigger on an inactive scuttle, and the charges has been increased to 3 to 5 from 3 at all ranks. They seem to have parked the Teemo rework, by the way, for now. Remember we talked about this before, so instead we've got a couple of changes for his ultimate. The idea is that you can shroom Dragon and Barons a bit easier now, and the scuttle isn't going to ruin your plans if you accidentally runs over it, I guess. Plus you have a sort of up to 5. That part is pretty big, since if you get to objective and you're a bit late, you don't have time to set up, you can throw down 5 straight away now without having to wait for a recharge. We've got a couple of jungle buffs to round out the video. So Void his W always grants attack speed against the hunted target now. Guessing most people don't even know what that actually is. So the hunted thing is just his W, where champions below 50% give him bonus move speed and attack speed. This buff actually applies to the active part of that though, so not that part. But when he uses it, the nearest enemy champion becomes hunted regardless of their health total. Before that would just give you move speed, but now that will give you attack speed as well. So when you use that, when you gank or something, you hunt somebody with full health, you get the bonus attack speed straight away for extra damage. Last up we have a buff to Lee Sin, but don't get too excited. His base health and AD are very slightly higher, and ultimate damage up 25 at every rank. I'm really not entirely sure what the deal is with these changes, if I'm honest, but he's not the best at the moment. Massively depends on if you're good with him anyway, though actually I haven't really seen him for a while. It might give him a little bit of an edge, a bit more damage when he finally commits to a fight and stuff, but it won't change too much. Last thing as well, there is a Garen update that we talked about in a previous video, if you remember that, whereas E scales with on-hit items and attack speed now and stuff, but they haven't confirmed if that's coming in this patch or not. I have a list of the changes, and basically they aren't on there, so I'm not sure. I'm not going to go into it just in case, actually not in this video, but it might appear in 9.18 in just over a week. Thank you for watching until the very end of the video. Let me know which is your favorite one. Leave a comment. I like the video. That really helps me out. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell as well, because apparently that helps even more. But for now, I will leave you with the robots.